Hi and welcome to LightroomTV. In this video we're going to be taking a look at something a little different to the norm. Now normally we cover Lightroom and Photoshop, but I'm going to show you one of my favorite apps on the iPad and also on Android devices for dealing with editing your photographs. The best thing about this, it's not only powerful and flexible and really good fun to work with, it's also absolutely free. Now why am I showing this on the Lightroom TV channel? Well, mainly because we've focused on the Nick collection previously, and Snapseed, which is what we're going to take a look at today, is also provided by the same company that developed this. So let's open it up, take a look. I'll give you a brief overview of what we can do. We'll edit an image, and over the coming weeks we'll take a look at each one of the individual settings on here to deal with different types of end result images. So let's open the program up, take a look, and let me take you through how to use Snapseed on your iPad or Android device. So let's start off by opening Snapseed and taking a look at the interface. Now it's a pretty simple looking interface. We can open a photograph up from this point and we can either take a photograph, open a photograph, or we can use various different methods of getting our images into Snapseed to start working. So if I click on open a photo, that'll ask me, do I want to open it from the device, do I want to use the camera, or do I want to open the latest image that we've taken? For this example, let's go through and open one up that I previously saved out. But if we choose open from device, that will take us through to our image browser so we can take a look at where the images are on our device. So I'm going to choose from this image in the center. We'll use that one. That's our starting image, and as you can see, the interface is pretty clean and easy to work with. If we look on the right hand side, you'll see we've got a little book icon. If we click on that, that'll take us through and that'll give us an overview of how we can create various different effects using Snapseed. So if you want to go through and find out how to do different things, then I would recommend checking out the different tutorials they have there, but for now we're going to leave that as it is. If we then take a look at the interface, you can see we've got the image in the center. At the top left hand corner we've got open, and if we click on that, that'll take us through to the same browser that we had to start off with, where we can select our image. We also got a histogram down the bottom. You can see we can turn that on and off by simply pressing on it. In the top right hand corner we can save our image. You'll see then we've got a 0, and that's telling us that currently we have 0 effects applied to this, or 0 steps applied to it. As we start adding different effects to this, then that'll tell us how many we've got on there. Then we've got the 3 little dots in the top right hand corner. If we click on that, that opens up a whole range of different options, and you can see we can undo, redo, revert, and so on. So this is really good interface, really simple to work with. We've also got the save, like I said, that allows us to save the image. And when we do save it, we've got a couple of options, and we'll take a look at that when we go through and we've edited this image, and then we'll save it and I'll show you what we can do from there. And then the bottom right hand corner, we've got the option to start editing the image. So if we press on that, that'll bring up a whole range of different options. We've got tools and we've got filters. Now, tools allow us to go through and fine-tune the image in various different things. So we've got the ability to sharpen, we can do selective adjustments, we can rotate the image, we can use the brush tool, vignette, and so on. And then underneath we've got filters, which are predefined sort of looks and feels that we can apply to an image, and then we have a range of controls that we can then work with to fine-tune this to get exactly the end result that we're looking for. So let's go through and take a look first of all at the tools option. So if we click on tune image to start off with, and we'll take a look at the kind of options in there, you can see now we're in tune image, and if we take a look right at the top center, you can see it tells us tune image is the option that we're in. In the top left hand corner we've got a question mark, which will allow us to see exactly how to use the interface in Snapseed. So we can skip that for now. In the top right hand corner we've got a before and after, so we can use that to check to make sure that we've got the end result that we like, so we can see exactly what we're doing and then come back in and adjust if we want to. And you can see at the moment we've got at the bottom we've got a tick in the left corner, sorry, in the right corner, and we've got an X in the left hand corner. That allows us to apply the effect or cancel back out of this to go and choose something else. We then got, as you can see in this instance, brightness and auto adjust. Now brightness is displaying at the moment because that's the default setting when we're tuning the image, but if we want to adjust that, we can simply hold our finger down on the screen. When we do that, you can see if we scroll up or down with our finger that we then have a range of different options. So you can see in this particular instance, the tune image, we've got brightness, contrast, saturation, ambience, highlights, shadows, and warmth. So if you're used to working with Lightroom or Photoshop or many other image editing applications, these are all going to be very familiar to you. And we can use these to really start fine-tuning the image. So let's just say, for example, we want to come down to the ambience. Once we've chosen that, now if we use our finger to go left and right, that will increase if we go to the right and decrease the amount of the effect if we go to the left. So you can see as we do that, if we look at the top of the image, you can see it now tells us ambience is being increased. And if we take it down to the left hand side, it shows us ambience is being decreased. And you can see we've got the same information at the bottom, which is now changed from contrast to ambience. So we can use this to fine tune the ambient color in the image. That's looking pretty good. Then we can come up and let's just say, for example, I want to increase the warmth to give us a more sort of warm orangey yellow tone. We can do that by simply dragging that over to the right hand side, or we can go the opposite way and make this a lot cooler by going to the left hand side. So we can use these to really quickly fine tune the image any way we want to. Come back in, use the up and down motion, and we can come into saturation, for example, and we can boost the saturation or decrease it if we want to. Got a whole range of different options all available in there. Once we've then got exactly what we want, we can simply come down to the bottom right hand corner and press the tick mark to say we want to apply that. Or like I said, in the top right hand corner, we can check out what the image looked like before the alterations were made, or we can just see it before and after. So let's just click on that, and as you can see, that shows us what it was like. If I take my finger off, that will show us what it's like now with the adjustments. If we're happy with those adjustments, we can press the tick. If I want to apply auto adjust, so we let Snapseed make the decisions on what we think the image should look like, we can use auto adjust. So let's just try that. As you can see, that goes through, auto adjusts it, and just tries to make it look as natural as possible, which may not be the effect that you're after. So let's just back out of that by clicking on the X in the bottom left hand corner, and that'll take us back to where we can choose what tools or filters we want to apply. So now let's go and take a look at the filters option. So let's just say, for example, we wanted to turn this into a HDR image. I can simply come down, choose HDR Escape from the options available, click on that. That will automatically apply the HDR effect to it using a set of predefined presets, and we can fine tune that if we want to in two ways. You can see we now have nature, people, fine and strong at the bottom of the screen, and that will try to fine tune the image based upon the content of the image. So if we've got people in there, we could choose people as the option. That will be a little bit more sympathetic. It won't be quite such a harsh HDR effect. Then you've got fine, which will really try to sort of give fine detail, or we've got strong, which will give it a really strong HDR presence, or we've got nature, and that will go back and choose a different option again. So these are all predefined sort of styles. We can, if we want to, fine tune that or completely ignore it. So we can just use the up and down. You can see we have filter strength, brightness and saturation now. So if we just use the filter strength and we just ramp that right the way up to the right hand side to 100%, you can see that gives us quite a strong HDR effect. We then scroll that up, we can say we want to really boost the saturation and give it a really overcooked look, and the brightness, you can see we can adjust that quite easily as well. So once we've got everything where we want it to be with that particular filter, then all we need to do is hit that little tick mark in the bottom right hand corner. So let's just do that. That will now go through and apply that effect to the image, and we can now move on to the next option. Now if you remember back at the beginning of this video, I said about the little symbol up in the top right hand corner next to where we now have the save that previously had 0 in there. Now this is the stack, and this is where we can see all of the different steps or the filters and tools we've used throughout the editing process. At the moment we only have 1 in there, but what I'll do is I'll show you later on, once we've done a few more edits, how you can use that and how that really does open up the power and versatility of Snapseed on your mobile device. So far, we've looked at the tools that are available to us, so we've taken a brief overview of how they work. Let's go back now and choose to take a look at the filters we have available. So if I click on the bottom right hand corner and click on the little edit icon again, that'll open up the browser that allows us to choose tools and filters, and as you can see, we now have underneath the tools, we've got a whole range of different filters that we can use. Now these are great because these are predefined styles that you can fine tune and tweak, and you also have in different ones of these, you have presets that you can call up, or you can just randomize them completely. So for example, let's take the grunge as an example to start off with. That's a good sort of starting point. Let's click on that. And you can see that automatically applies one particular effect to it. So we take a look at the bar at the bottom. You now see we have shuffle, we have style, and we have a number above it, and we have texture. What that does is if we hit the shuffle, that will now randomize, and you can see now that's jumped up to 1499 for the style with the texture. And if we click on texture, you can see we can scroll through and choose a different texture on this. So we can choose that and fine tune it and adjust it and tweak and so on. Once we're happy with that, we can also come up and you can see we have a dot in the center of the image. This allows us to reposition that texture or the effect as it's been applied. So you can see as I move this around, the text or the effect changes. So you can see you've got a real sort of blur soft focus around the bottom sort of area and around the right hand side. And if we drag that down, we adjust that so the top left hand corner becomes dark. So that's the effect itself being applied. We can, if we want to, we can use two fingers to pinch on this, and that will adjust the radius or the size of the actual effect that's been applied. We can also use the up and down motion like we did previously, and that opens up all the options available. So you can see the style at the top. We can adjust the brightness, the contrast, the saturation, the texture strength. So we might like the initial effect that's been applied. We can then go in and we can fine tune that. So we might say that actually we want this to be less saturated. So we can select that and then drag that over, our finger over to the left hand side to reduce the saturation. We can come in and we can adjust the contrast on this, so we can reduce the amount of contrast or increase that. The same goes with the brightness. You can see we can fine tune, and if we want to, we can adjust the style, or we can come down and adjust the texture strength. So as you see, as I increase that by moving it over to the right hand side, you can see the texture now is very, very strong in the image. It gives a really grungy effect, really sort of gritty effect. And alternatively, if we drag that over to the left hand side, you can see we take the texture out completely. So we can, if we want to, use these as the basis of the effect you want, and then we can actually completely adjust that and take certain elements out. So if we don't actually want the texture in there, we can remove that. We can add it back in. We can change it for another one by using the option at the bottom. You know, really pretty cool. We have a huge array of different textures as well, sorry, effects that we can use on this. So if we come up to style, you can see we can go from 1499, which is the maximum one, right the way through. And as I drag over to the left hand side, we cycle through all those different preset styles. But what it's also doing is it's taking the effects or the alteration to the effects that I've applied to it, such as the saturation being reduced, and it keeps those intact. So we can, if we want to, adjust the style and the way that it actually displays itself, or we can just come down to the bottom, we can hit shuffle and let it randomly go through and try all different styles from those 1,499 different options we have available to us, and then when we find one we like, we can tweak it if we want to. So that's how easy it is to start working with these filters. And again, we've got in the top right hand corner, we can adjust, we can see that's the before, let go, that's the after. Once we're happy with it, we can hit the little tick in the bottom right hand corner, and that will apply it. So now you can see the stack in the top right has now been increased to 2. So let's take a look at what the stack actually does. So if we take our finger or pointer, whatever we're using to access this, over the 2, and we click on it, we press on there, you can see what that does in the bottom right hand corner is it opens up the stack. And as you can see, we've got 3 stages at the moment. And that's saying that we've got the original, which is the first thing that we did, which is open the file. We then applied the HDRscape effect to it, and then finally we applied the grunge filter to it. If we want to, we can come back out of this by hitting the arrow in the top left hand corner, and in the top right hand corner you can see we've got 3 little dots, and if we click on that, we've got the option to do copy, and other options will be available there depending upon what we do. The other thing we can do is you can see on any of these steps in the stack, we've got a little arrow pointing out. So if I choose HDRscape, for example, that steps back 1 in the process, so it takes off the grunge, and we've got this arrow in the corner. If I press a second time on the stack, you can see we now get 3 additional options. We can click the bin icon on the left hand side to delete the effect from the stack. We can use the paintbrush to selectively apply this particular effect to our image, or we can actually come back in and adjust it again by using the sliders. So we click on that, for example, you can see that takes us back to the HDRscape section, and we can now fine tune that and adjust it to our heart's content. Once we're happy, we can click on the tick in the bottom right, or we can click the X in the bottom left to go back out. So I'll click the X. I can do the same again. If I come to the grunge, for example, and press a second time, we can now use the paintbrush. So if I click on that, that will take us back out of the effect. So what we've done is we've got that effect under our paintbrush. So it takes off the image, and we can now go in and paint that in directly onto the image itself. You can see at the bottom we've got a couple of options available now. We can see the mask in the bottom right hand corner. You can see grunge is at 100 at the moment, so that's full 100%, so we can use the up and down, increase, decrease arrows to go up and down through those to increase and decrease the amount of effect in 25% increments. We've also got invert, so we can paint the effect on and then we can invert that effect if we want to. So let's take a look. Let's just say, for example, I want to focus on this spire. So if I use my finger now or my stylus and I paint that on, you can see we now get a red mask that shows us where this effect is going to take effect. If we press the mask in the bottom right hand corner, that will disable it, so it'll turn it off, and you can see the effect has now been applied where I've masked. So I can decrease that effect if I want to, so it's not quite so evident when I want to paint it back on. And you can see that that's a very quick and easy way of applying this effect. So that's how you use the paintbrush when it comes to the stack. If we're happy with that, we can press the tick, or I can invert it if I want to, and that'll show you that's the masked area now inverted. So if I disable the mask, you can see now that the spire itself is not affected by the HDR effect, but everything outside it has been. So very quick and very easy. We can use the top right hand corner again to switch back and forth before and after, and if I'm happy with that, I can hit the tick to accept it, or I can hit the X to back out of it. So that's how we can use that. That's how we use the paintbrush. And the third and final option, if I click on there again, is the trash can. So if I click on that, that will now delete that from our stack. If we also take a look up in the top right hand corner, we've got a stack selected. We now have the option to copy and discard changes. So we can discard any of the changes, that's pretty self-explanatory, and the copy is also pretty self-explanatory. But what that allows us to do now is copy the effects that we've applied, and then what we can do is we can open up a new image, and then we can actually apply that to the new image. Now we'll take a look at that in its own dedicated video further on down the line in this series, but just so you know that you have the ability now, this is something that's fairly recent to the actual Snapseed, but you do have that ability to very easily copy the effects that you've done and apply it to a second image, which I think is great. Once you're happy, we can click on the top left hand corner arrow to take us back to the normal editor, and you can see our stack now in the top right has now changed to 1 because we only have one effect in the stack. Now before I wrap this video up, I want to show you one of the new things that we've had added to Snapseed, and that's the text option. So let's click on the bottom right again, and we'll come to add some new information, and we'll choose text from the tools section. So once we do that, you can see that brings up a whole range of preset styles. Now this is great because if you're like me and you use Instagram, this is a great way of being able to edit your images and then apply a really good looking text overlay in various different formats. You can really fine tune and tweak, and then you can use these images and upload them to your Instagram feed. So you've got a really good looking image in a great quality editor, which is completely free. So as you can see, if I scroll across, I've got a whole range of different options available. So let's just say I choose the bubble, for example. I can now open that up. I can reposition it if I want to, just by simply clicking and dragging that any position I want. So you can see I can move it around. We've got guidelines in there that allow us to see exactly where this is going to be positioned, so we really can fine tune the positioning on there. So we can put that exactly where we want it to be. If I want to change the text, I simply just double tap. That will open up the text editor, and as you can see, we've got the keyboard pops up. We can type the text in. Once we're happy, we can click OK or click Cancel to back out of that. We've also got 3 different options below. You can see we've got color, transparency, and the style. Now style will bring back up exactly what we saw earlier on, so we can choose any style we want from the options available, drag these and reposition them as we see fit. Color, as its name suggests, will change the color of the actual text element itself. So we can very easily come through, find a color that really works well with the image that we're working on. Once we're happy with that, we can press color again to close that down. And once we've done that, we can then use the opacity slider. So we can just use that to reduce the amount of opacity. So we can make it semi-transparent if we want to. We could even invert that so we get a really cool looking effect where the background is overlaid with this color overlay, and the text actually allows you to see through it. So again, once we've done that, we can choose the style, we like it and everything else, and we say, right, we're happy with the transparency and the color, but I don't really like the text style on this, so we can easily come back in and choose something completely different. If we want to, we can just pinch to grab, and that allows us to make it larger. Very quick and very easy. And once we're happy with that, we can hit the little tick button in the bottom right hand corner, and that applies that to our image. So really, really great effect in there. And again, like I said, we've got the stack, so if we want to, we can easily come into that. We can come back in at any point and we can edit everything that goes in there. So if maybe I don't like that inverted style, So I can easily come into the transparency option, hit invert, put it back to the way it was, pinch, make that smaller. All very cool. I hit the tick to say I'm happy with that. So there we go. That's an overview of Snapseed for iOS and Android. Now this is available on your tablet and it's available on your phone. It's completely free and it's probably one of the most used apps that I have on any of my mobile devices, and I've been using it and loving it since it came out. I hope you found this introduction to Snapseed useful. If you did, please hit that subscribe button below to be kept up to date with all of the new Snapseed tutorials and Lightroom tutorials that we add to this channel every single week. Now I'll be focusing in a lot more detail on the specifics of working on different image editing techniques with Snapseed over the coming weeks. So if you've got any comments, questions or feedback on this video or anything else on the channel, please pop those in the comments section below. If you do enjoy the tutorials we put out on this channel, please consider popping over to Amazon where you can purchase the new ebook we released on the Kindle store. 8 essential Adobe Lightroom techniques, where we go into detail about different techniques that every Adobe Lightroom user should really have in their arsenal. The link is in the description below and your support is much appreciated. Well, until next time, take care.